Every so often, I come across a YouTube channel and their stats just blow my mind. And Dude Perfect is one of those channels. I can't help but wonder, how did they get over 43 million subscribers? How do they have over 8 billion, yes, with a B, views on YouTube? And how in the world do they make $20 million in 2018? I asked all of these questions because I knew the answer would be a great blueprint for all starting YouTube channels. So not only can you grow your YouTube channel, you can ultimately make money on YouTube. So if you have questions, I have answers because I did the homework and I'm here to share them today. All you have to do, keep watching.
Dude Perfect.
Hey there, I'm Jarrett Stone, and for those that don't know me, I'm a lawyer, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm a total nerd. And this particular YouTube channel that you're watching is going to be primarily focused on entrepreneurship with some nerdiness sprinkled in here and there. And that gets me to the point of this particular video. You see, I'm very fascinated by these other YouTube channels that can grow and then monetize and create a certain type of cash flow. It really blows me away. I can't help but wonder, can I do something like that? And if you're watching this video, you probably asked the exact same thing. Now, keep in mind, I understand that you shouldn't go into something for the sole purpose of making money, and that's not the case here. I really enjoy making videos that are helpful and hopefully entertaining at the same time. You can laugh either with me or at me, but when it comes down to my particular situation, I have a whole bunch of different passions, and I determine what I focus on, which passion gets most of my energy, based essentially on which passion makes more money. And since I haven't figured out how to make money off of napping, I've decided to try this whole YouTube thing, and here we are. Now, what is important, and I truly believe this, that whenever you start something off, you want to start off on the right foot, and the best way to do that before you start any venture is to look at other successes and see if you can come up with a blueprint. So of course I had to look to Dude Perfect because they have one of the most successful YouTube channels of all time. And what they've been able to accomplish through this particular platform is extremely impressive. And also, I had to do a little bit of digging for personal reasons as well. So back in 2011 or maybe 2012, I remember one night going to play pickup basketball here in Austin, Texas, and meeting the Cotton twins for the first time. And as a side note, I also remember they were wearing something very similar to one another. And looking back, if they did that on purpose, it was absolutely genius because it was hard to determine which one I was guarding. It took me a little while to figure that out. But okay, pushing that to the side for a second. After playing with them for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, I remember being on the sideline and Corey Cotton and I were exchanging numbers and we were just chatting it up, and he told me that him and his brother had recently graduated from Texas A&M, but were wanting to go full-time with this whole YouTube thing. And to me, especially back in 2011, 2012, the whole YouTube thing meant, so you're gonna post cat videos? And then he gave me a quick rundown about, what Dude Perfect is. First, he goes, have you ever heard of Dude Perfect? And I was like, what? No idea, clueless, absolutely clueless. So he mentioned that it was a trick shot channel and that they had gone viral initially during college and they were wanting to do that full time. And my outward, reaction was, okay, yeah, go get him, man. Like, good for you, go chase the dream. But you know how inwardly you become very skeptical when people tell you something similar along those lines? And my thought was, okay, you earned a degree and you're not gonna use your degree and you're gonna try and make money off of YouTube, and not only make money, but make enough money to where you can support yourself after splitting it with your friends. Ooh, that's quite the gamble. But I was completely wrong. I was totally wrong. In fact, I have about 20 million reasons why I was wrong according to Forbes, but we'll get to that in a second. So I've done some research and I've been able to figure out the business model that Dude Perfect uses, and it also helps explain how they've been able to achieve so much in such a short amount of time. Here it is. The first phase is to grow. The second phase is to take your growth and to monetize. And then after you monetize, you take the money and you put it back into your YouTube channel so you can grow at a much faster rate. And that's how you begin to scale, because you can improve your production value and you can improve your overall content. And whenever your overall content improves, then guess what? Your growth is just going to explode and you make more money off of that, and you continue the cycle over and over again. Now I also understand this is a very simple concept. A lot of businesses do this. This is basically business 101. And what I've been able to do is take this concept, especially when it comes to Dude Perfect, and come up with 5 tips. And these 5 tips will take you from the beginning of your YouTube channel to basically the end, to where you have this cycle scaling for you and making more money. So let's dive into this first tip, and that way you can better replicate the success that Dude Perfect has had. Tip number 1 is to share your passion. And there's no denying that the members of Dude Perfect are passionate about what they do.
And then you do something like that and you're like, let's go!
Dude Perfect.
Now keep in mind that the members of Dude Perfect had the skill set going into their first video. They all have a background playing basketball. In fact, from what I've read online, they all met one another at some point in time to some degree through basketball. That resulted in most of them, or maybe all of them, rooming together and ultimately betting sandwiches and things like that when it comes to trick shots. They were basically almost living the real world situation involving the Michael Jordan and Larry Bird commercial. I think it was called The Showdown from 1993. Here's a clip of it if you don't know what I'm talking about.
What's in the bag?
Lunch. Big Mac, fries.
Play you for it.
You and me for my Big Mac?
First one to miss watches the winner eat.
I do want to pause this commercial for a brief second. Michael, you're a terrible negotiator. Amazing basketball player, but what are you doing? You have no upside here. The meal is already yours. You don't have to risk it, and then at best, if you win, get the meal that you already have. You got to up the ante a little bit with Larry. What are you doing? Okay, anyways, get back to the commercial. That way you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Off the floor, off the scoreboard, off the bang board, no rim.
Over the second rafter, off the floor, nothing but net.
Like I said, this commercial came out in 1993, I believe during the Super Bowl that year, and it was a massive hit. And then if you fast forward to 2009, that's when Dude Perfect released their first video. So was nobody doing or performing trick shots during that 16-year period? Of course not. In fact, everyone who has ever played basketball has done some type of trick shot. Everyone's tried to do the half-court shot, or maybe the one-arm full-court shot, or if you're at home, you try and bounce it off the garage, then off the truck, and then off the fence, and then into the goal. Everyone's done some crazy shot attempt. And by the way, if you've made a crazy shot attempt, describe that in the comments below. Let's see who has the craziest shot, and let's see if it's actually believable. But what's important to understand, and this concept that I can't stress enough, is that everyone was doing it, but nobody was posting it to the degree that Dude Perfect ended up posting with their first video. They basically had a hype reel, and they had a compilation of all these trick shots. So not only was this post relatable to anyone and everyone who has ever picked up a basketball, but it had this energy about it that was very unusual for a video on YouTube back in 2009. This resulted in this 2009 video, their very first video, to go viral and be featured on Good Morning America. Now I know what you may be thinking, because I've thought it too. Maybe Dude Perfect is just lucky. Their first video goes viral, their first video gets featured on Good Morning America. What? Yeah, I agree, there is some element of luck there. But at the same time, there's an important concept that I think we can all learn, especially if you have a new YouTube channel, which is that in the Dude Perfect sense, anybody and everybody had the opportunity to post a video similar to what Dude Perfect posted. Heck, I could have posted that video, gone viral, and been featured on Good Morning America, but I didn't. I didn't think about it. And so the concept here, and especially the tip number 1, is to share your passion. If you're doing something all the time, most likely other people are doing something similar. And if you have something that people can relate to, and you have really good content, that'll cause those people to just gravitate towards your content, and in the Dude Perfect sense, cause you to go viral and give you that springboard onto just growing at an accelerated rate. Okay, let's take this information and let's apply that to tip number 2. The second tip is prioritizing your content value over your production value, especially early on with your YouTube channel. You see, like I said, Dude Perfect wasn't the first one to post a trick shot video, but they were able to separate themselves very quickly and very early on in their YouTube career, because their first video went from backyard basketball. Their second video, they're shooting from basically a moving truck into a basketball goal. And then fast forward to maybe their 6th video, they're shooting from the 3rd deck of Kyle Stadium. Yeah, it escalated quickly. Here's something that I really want to stress to you. These Dude Perfect videos, especially the early on ones, their production value was minimal. It was basic. They basically shot everything on a handheld camera. Not a phone, but a handheld camera. And if you don't know what this means, that means you're really young. But for those that were shooting anything back in 2008, 2009, you know what this means. But anyways, there are portions in their early videos, especially their first video, where it looks like it could potentially be footage from the Blair Witch Project. It's shaky and it's dark and it could potentially be a horror film. But the point here is that Dude Perfect was able to overcome their lack of production with just really great content. If you watch their videos, it's high energy and it's entertaining. Had Dude Perfect waited 6 months or a year to post their next video until they were able to increase their production value, get a nicer camera, get the full body gimbal thing to where you're looking like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins, sorry if I'm dating myself, then they could have actually lost a ton of momentum, or somebody else could have swooped in and captured that momentum and basically wouldn't be talking about Dude Perfect today. Instead, ride the momentum that you gain from having killer content and move on to this next tip. So before talking about tip number 3, here's just a bonus tip. Whenever you start your videos, be sure to start them off fast and bring the fire early on, because that is a great way to get people engaged, and Dude Perfect is the perfect example, see what I did there, of how to start things off fast. Within the first 3 seconds, they perform their trick shot, and you know it's gonna work. You know the basketball is gonna go into the hoop or whatever they're trying to do, it's just gonna end up working. But you can't help but wonder, how are they gonna do it? What all is gonna go into this? And you start asking these questions, and so you have to watch in order to get the answer. And then after you get that first answer, they do another trick shot. And so you have another question and that you want answered, so you just keep watching, and it becomes this addictive cycle to where you end up spending the next 4 hours on YouTube watching Dude Perfect videos, which is kind of what I did. Anyways, let's move on to tip number 3. So your first 2 tips are all about growing from scratch and building your foundation. Tip number 3, on the other hand, is about building upon that foundation so you can grow at a much faster rate. So tip number 3, collaboration. And Dude Perfect is a master when it comes to collaborating with superstars like Chris Paul, Aaron Rodgers, Paul Rudd. I think Paul Rudd's a superstar, at least he's a superhero star, so I think it works. But the point and the concept is that when it comes to collaborations, you need to begin by having your audience first. You need to be making waves in your niche. And what ends up happening, especially in the Dude Perfect situation, is that a lot of these superstars, from what I've read, actually are the ones reaching out to Dude Perfect wanting to collab. And then what ends up happening is all the fans who are fans of Aaron Rodgers or Chris Paul or Paul Rudd end up, following their superstar to the Dude Perfect video, liking the content that Dude Perfect is posting, and then ultimately subscribing and watching Dude Perfect videos. There are a lot of Dude Perfects in that little paragraph that I just stated, but we're getting through it. So the concept, again, is very, very simple, but it's also very, very important, which is to initially, with these first 2 steps that we went over, start making waves, have that really good content to where you're gonna be recognized in the industry. In the Dude Perfect situation, they're recognized in the sport industry, and that's why these athletes and Paul Rudd are reaching out to them. So tip number 3 is all about using the credibility that you've earned in the first 2 tips to reach out to the bigger names in your industry, in your niche, and working with them. That way you can help them make better content, they can help you make better content, and with that better content, you'll be able to grow at an even faster rate than you were early on with the first 2 tips. All right, we're moving on. Tip number 4 is monetization. And let's be real, this is the one you've really been wanting to hear. And if you've been able to implement the first 3 tips and the bonus tip, you've been able to grow an audience. And what you need to do at this point to grow even more is to start making money. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so what you end up doing, based on the business model that I was talking about earlier, is you take the money that you've earned, you put it back into your growth, into your YouTube channel, so you can grow at a much faster rate and you can begin scaling. And this is where that starts happening with this particular tip. And Dude Perfect is the perfect example by aligning themselves with brands. In fact, Corey Cotton has said, "We learned pretty quickly on YouTube that the community is very protective of their audience. If they have a creator that they really like to follow, they don't want that creator to sell out. That's what they're scared of. We figured out that if we could align ourselves with brands that helped us accomplish something very awesome, our community would be very supportive of that." In other words, Dude Perfect seamlessly integrates their sponsorships into their content so they can further their content goals and they can make their videos even better. For example, they used a sponsorship in order to get hooked up with a plane so they could have a trick shot shooting a basketball out of a plane. And this is a win across the board because the sponsor ends up getting exposure, Dude Perfect ends up getting paid, and the viewer is watching Dude Perfect shoot a basketball out of an airplane. The stakes are even higher in that situation, so the content's better, and so the viewer isn't put off by the sponsorship. In fact, if anything, the viewer wants more sponsorships so the stakes can keep being raised and the content ends up being even better than ever before. So in that situation, the sponsorship is benefiting everyone across the board. And this has led to explosive growth because the content's better for Dude Perfect. And it's also led to just the sponsorships rolling in. By the way, speaking of sponsorships, this video is sponsored by absolutely no one. This channel is way too small. But a lot of work went into this video, especially when it comes to research and recording. So if you want to show your support, click that like button below. And if there are other channels you want me to have a breakdown to see how they were able to grow and make money, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe button's over there. And here's the point of everything that I just said. A lot of YouTube channels have this abrupt pitch of a sponsorship, and I don't think that's the right way to go because it's almost like a pop-up that's built into the video, and that can be a bit abrasive. I recommend that you use sponsorships like Dude Perfect and you use it to further your content and to grow at a much faster rate like we just talked about. And Dude Perfect has also been able to make money in other ways. They have their own Nickelodeon show, they have their own app, which is free, but you can make in-app purchases. They have their own apparel, they make money off of touring, and they also have a book that you can purchase as well. So with tip number 4 in monetizing, the important lesson that we can learn from Dude Perfect is to seamlessly integrate your sponsorships in your videos to further your content. And if you're gonna sell something, make sure that it also helps your viewer or it allows your viewer to basically support your channel or support your brand. And if you can do one or the other or both, then you'll be well on your way to making money, then putting that back into your YouTube channel, your overall business model, so you can scale. And speaking of scale, that takes us to tip number 5. So at this point, we're one step away from completing the business model. We've talked about growing, we've talked about monetizing. Now the next step is to go ahead and funnel what you've earned from monetizing back into your YouTube channel. And that's what takes us to tip number 5, which is scaling. And this is what Dude Perfect ended up doing. They took the money that they've earned initially and they put it back into their YouTube channel. And as a result, they were able to make more money because their production value increased and their trick shots got bigger.
This is the truck smasher.
And don't get me started on their new headquarters. Are they taking applications for interns? Because that place is amazing. So here's the Dude Perfect blueprint. You need to get started by getting started and share your passion. And early on, be sure to focus primarily on the quality of the content and less on the production value. And after you've developed that foundation, then with your newfound credibility, be sure to reach out to the bigger names and collaborate with them so you can grow at a much faster rate. And ultimately, make sure that you monetize because you're going to want to put that money back into your YouTube channel to improve your production value and overall improve your growth. And that right there is called scaling. And you just repeat that recipe over and over again. And that right there is how you make money on YouTube like Dude Perfect. Any questions?